T or Malice?
To keep it a buck, I'm gonna go with Pusha T. So we're not gonna drink to them.
My son can't tell you one Nas record. You heard? Like, let's keep it a buck here.
Yeah, but
like,
let's keep it.
That was not a top 50 verse.
Jim Jones really woke up one morning and decided to go after not one, not two, but three heavyweights in hip-hop. Nas, Pusha T, and No Malice. Like, what was he thinking? These aren't just rappers. These are icons with legacy stamped on their names. And now he's finding out the hard way. Some fights ain't meant to be started, especially when you don't know what kind of smoke you're calling in. The whole industry is watching this unfold like a slow-motion car crash. What Jim thought was just some offhand opinion. Yeah, that lit a whole firestorm. He didn't just ruffle feathers. He stirred up one of the coldest comebacks hip-hop's has seen in years. That's when everyone realized Jim didn't just start a beef, he might have accidentally resurrected Clipse. All he did was say Nas wasn't relevant anymore, and boom, now there's a full-blown lyrical shootout happening.
At all, ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Now, has Nas been
you did the last time he was in some like this where people were comparing when him and Jay was beating on him. You heard? You did? Like, and I don't want to talk about other people's career, but let's just get to the semantics of it.
Since
Nas.
Okay.
Huh? I don't know Nas to have a conversation with him. You don't have a conversation, we can have that too much like that. You dig? Like, I don't really care.
One thing I did see you do, I've seen you do this in Say Less, I've seen you do this in the studio.
And it's not just behind the scenes either. This thing made it all the way to the front row of Paris Fashion Week. Pharrell, Beyonce, and Jay-Z were sitting right there watching it all play out like a movie. And smack in the center of the chaos, Jim Jones, the same guy who said Pusha T's music never meant anything to him, is now being used as the launch pad for Clipse's big return.
You sing along the 5 Pusha T records right now, his records.
Yes.
His records?
Yeah.
Name
I love Pusha. Nostalgia.
Oh, you was a Pusha T fan.
If you
like,
know, you know.
I didn't know he had fans like that. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? No, his records. Pusha T, I love your soul, my dog. You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like that, but you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like, I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment in my life. I never thought, like, you dig? Like, where I'm from, I just want to be like you if you was really that dude and that rapper and things like that.
Wayne wanted to be like Pusha? Yeah. He was influenced by Pusha?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's why Pusha did the Mr. Me Too record.
Okay, cool. You a very strong Pusha T fan. You heard? But what else has he bring to the game? Did he make people want to dress like him? Did he have some slang that everybody was talking like him? There'll be the girls, all the girls wanted to do him. Like, what is the...
Jim went straight for the jugular with no warning. He dragged Nas's whole legacy into the convo, unprovoked, and basically said it wasn't even strong enough for the next generation to remember. Like, seriously, that alone was wild. But the craziest part, that wasn't even the boldest thing he said that week. Jim didn't just say it once and walk away. Nah, he laughed, repeated it, and doubled down everywhere he could. He hit the Breakfast Club, popped up on Bag Fuel, showed up on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp. He was out here repeating the same line in street interviews and live streams like it was his new anthem.
Still playing it
At one point, he tried to brush it all off, saying he was just being real as a fan. But then he pushed it even further on Bag Fuel. He flipped the whole story and claimed he's the reason Nas was trending again. Yep, you heard that right. According to Jim, folks hadn't talked about Nas this much since the Ether days.
More influential, the movie Belly, like.
And he really said on camera, Nas ain't never been this viral. Ever, ever. That's what came out his mouth. The wildest part? Jim had no clue who he was messing with. Nas ain't the type to argue online or throw shady bars back. He's the type to move in silence, shake hands with billionaires, team up with powerhouse developers, and flex in ways that don't even need words.
The future is not something you wait for, it's something you build. It lives in the hands of the doers, the dreamers, the people who refuse to stand still. Resorts World is more than a casino. It's energy, it's opportunity, is hope for the borough. A second chance for some, a first step for many. It's where community gathers, not just to win, but to build a future once imagined. This isn't just business, this is legacy. And now, it's time to invest in us.
While Jim was out here cracking jokes, Nas was out here stacking moves. While Jim was out causing scenes and chasing clout, Nas was quietly putting together what might turn into the biggest cultural project Queens has ever seen. And instead of throwing subs, Nas delivered one of the coldest, cleanest power moves in hip-hop history. He hit Instagram and dropped a promo for a $5 billion casino investment in Queens. Time to invest in us. That's all he posted. But everybody knew what it meant. That wasn't just a business move. That was Nas saying loud and clear, I'm way too rich for this nonsense. And if that had been the only fire Jim tried to light, maybe things would have cooled down. But no, Jim had to take it even further. He went after Pusha T too. Like it wasn't enough already, he dragged Pusha down and said straight up, Pusha's not even top 50.
A Pusha T fan. He's like,
you know.
I didn't know he had fans like that. Can you name 5 Pusha T records? No, his record. Pusha T, I love your soul, my dog. You're not in my top 50. You might be in Charlemagne's top 50 and things like that, but you haven't done that much for me in my life. Like I didn't never want to be like Pusha. I never had a Pusha moment in my life. I never thought like you dig like.
What Jim didn't realize, it wasn't just Pusha T paying attention this time. No Malice was locked in too. And now everybody's wondering, did Jim accidentally reunite Clipse off one reckless hot take? Let's rewind for a sec because Clipse didn't just pop back up out of nowhere. They'd been low-key for almost 15 years. But behind the scenes, something had already been bubbling. Way before Jim ever opened his mouth, Pusha had dropped a quiet warning shot in a Rolling Stone interview. He said he'd been trying to get his brother back in the booth. I'm like, yo, listen to what I just made. We can really do this.
Home one day and talking with myself, I said, I'm just gonna live. Forget this guilty, feeling. Forget all this regret. Do what you wanna do. Ain't nobody else tripping like you. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and party and do it up. And I literally tried to sear my conscience, like forget it. So when people say you found God, I did not find God. I was trying to party with the devil. Trust me, I was trying to go hard. God himself said, no, not you. He did not allow me to do it. And that's what I seen with my own eyes, whether anyone believes it or not.
But No Malice wasn't sure. He brushes me off. Then Pusha said something even more telling. If I had it my way, it would be the Clipse. It's really up to my brother. And just like that, Jim might have handed them the perfect excuse to bring the duo back. The reunion talk started heating up at Pharrell's Something in the Water Festival in Virginia Beach back in 2022. Clipse hit the stage and the crowd lost it. Then a few months later, boom! They were at Complex Con, then again at Chicago's Hyde Park Summerfest, performing joints from Lord Willin' and Hell Hath No Fury. And No Malice? He didn't just look comfortable, he looked ready.
Make some noise for the Clipse. It's the Genesis. Now hold on. DC. Make some noise for the Clipse, y'all. It's all right. Let's go! Been 2 years like I was batting back and cruising.
But the real game changer? Paris. The Clipse brothers were spotted walking the Louis Vuitton runway side by side with Pharrell, who had just taken the reins as LV's creative director. Pharrell had just stepped in as the creative director for Louis Vuitton's men's line, and the energy was crazy. Jay-Z and Beyonce were front row, locked in, vibing the whole time. But right in the middle of the show, everything flipped. The speakers blasted a brand new Clipse track, and it was fire, raw, sharp, and straight up surgical with the bars. And the target, clear as day, Jim Jones. Pusha wasn't even trying to hide it. He was aiming directly at Jim with that verse. But this wasn't some random diss tossed on the internet. This was poetry with a purpose, dropped in the middle of Paris Fashion Week in front of the most powerful names in music, fashion, and culture. And who was behind the whole moment? Pharrell. That's when fans started putting the pieces together. Was this more than just music? Was this Pharrell making a quiet but deadly move? A chess play cooked up in the shadows of the Louis Vuitton HQ, getting slick payback on Jim for all the shots and slick talk over the years? It's possible, especially when Jim's been out here calling Drake the greatest of all time in interviews. That might have been the final push. Jim made his stance loud and clear. He lined himself up right next to Pusha T's biggest rival. And in that complex interview, he didn't even flinch. It was obvious who he was backing. But then, boom, just like that, Clipse was back. No press run, no lead single, just a cold-blooded revenge track dropped at one of the most iconic fashion stages on the planet. Jim might have thought he was just running his mouth, but Pusha and No Malice, they were low-key plotting a comeback and using him as the setup. Now here's the real question. Did Jim just hand No Malice the hardest comeback moment in rap history? Or did he straight up script his own downfall without even realizing it? And the craziest part? Clipse hasn't even dropped an album yet, and it's already shaking the industry.
New song?
No, but
You don't like Ace Trumpets?
What's so great about it?
It's so.
And don't sleep on Pharrell, the mastermind behind this whole scene. He's not just their producer, he's family. He built the Clipse sound from the ground up. He gave them their identity. So when Jim went on camera dismissing their legacy, calling them irrelevant, mocking their catalog like it meant nothing, he didn't just throw shade at Pusha. He disrespected the entire Clipse dynasty. And while folks were sleeping on No Malice, thinking he was done, he came back swinging harder than anyone expected. Let's keep it real. No Malice had been quiet for over a decade. He was the older brother who stepped away from the spotlight, found faith, and chose peace while Pusha stayed deep in the rap trenches. Over and over again, No Malice said he was done with rap, that the mic was behind him. People believed him. So when his voice suddenly echoed through the speakers during that Louis Vuitton runway in Paris, it wasn't just surprising, it was chilling. Now let's break this down, because he wasn't just throwing out bars for hype. This was surgical. Every line was coded in meaning. Every word had a name on it. Bird talk, we all parrots. Now, that's not some random punchline. That's a direct hit at Bird Gang, aimed straight at Jim's whole brand, his crew, his identity. And when he said Paris, Dallas, those weren't just throwaway cities. They just happened to be the exact spots Jim name-dropped in his freestyle over the Chains and Whips beat just days earlier. So yeah, No Malice wasn't just rapping. He was watching, he was locked in, and now he's responding. But here's where it gets even deeper. People started catching on to something bigger. No Malice wasn't just popping up for nostalgia, he was rapping like he'd been waiting years for this moment. And suddenly, what looked like a surprise feature became something else. A warning. He didn't return for fun, he came back to check egos and reset the tone. And guess who gave him the green light to do it? Jim Jones. Jim kicked off his clapback tour by posting a clip of himself laughing at Pusha T's Paris verse. On Instagram, he tried to play it cool, acting like the diss didn't faze him. But then came his Drink Champs appearance, and that's where things slipped. When NORE brought up the Clipse diss, Jim's mask cracked. That was the moment he accidentally let it show. He felt it. The bars hit. You could see it in his face, hear it in his voice. Behind all the jokes and fake calm, the pressure was building. So what did Jim do? He ran to the booth and dropped his Chains and Whips freestyle, a response over the exact same beat Clipse used to torch him. It wasn't just a reply, it was a pride move. He wanted folks to know he wasn't backing down, but things weren't done. Next stop, the BET Awards. Bootleg Kev caught Jim for a quick interview, and Jim stuck to his usual playbook, try to act unbothered. But when the topic switched to Clipse's new track, Chains and Ace Trumpets, Jim didn't hold back at all. Jim tried to play it off like Clipse was just riding off nostalgia, claiming their bars were mid and nothing special, but it didn't land. Instead of looking like a confident vet standing his ground, Jim came off like a rapper spiraling in real time. Cause what do you do when the very legends you trashed suddenly start moving like bosses? You either fall back or go all in. Jim chose to double down. Just when you thought he couldn't dig the hole any deeper, he pulled out another shovel and started swinging again. On Nightcap with Shannon Sharp, Jim jumped into another rant. And of course, he went straight back at one of his favorite targets, Nas. This time, he said Nas was never really that influential. Like, Seriously? He claimed Nas always played second fiddle to Jay-Z and DMX. And then, with a straight face, he dropped this wild line. That's like saying Jordan fell off after Space Jam. People couldn't believe it. The man really compared Nas's legacy to a cartoon movie flop. It was straight up delusional. While Jim was out here chasing clout and tossing random shots, Clipse was out executing a master plan. The duo finally dropped the full rollout for their long-awaited reunion album, Let God Sort 'Em Out. And if folks thought Chains and Whips was the final blow, nah, that was just the warm-up. This wasn't just a comeback album, it was a power move. And the features, stacked. We're talking Nas, Kendrick Lamar, Tyler, the Creator, The Dream, John Legend, and with Pharrell running executive production, it was already shaping up to be legendary. But then came the twist. Originally, the album was set to drop through Def Jam, but according to the streets, Def Jam allegedly tried to censor Kendrick's verse. Word is, his bars were packed with slick shots at Drake, Travis Scott, and the fake politics running the industry. But Clipse, they weren't backing down, not one bit. Instead, they walked away, cut ties with Def Jam, and took the whole project to Roc Nation. That move said it all. Clipse wasn't coming back as some throwback duo, they were stepping in as bosses. And Jim, the same guy who once asked, "Who even rides for Pusha T?" got his answer loud and clear. This didn't happen overnight, but the shift was undeniable. Jim wasn't just getting dissed anymore, he was getting left behind, not canceled, not blackballed, just quietly benched. And for a man who built his whole persona on loyalty and loud energy, that silence, it hit harder than any bar Clipse could ever throw. So when that Clipse x Nas collab finally drops, yeah, it's not just a diss, it's a funeral. Jim can keep rapping, keep trolling, keep acting like it's all jokes, but while he's out chasing attention, real moves are being made behind closed doors. Big meetings are going down, tours are getting locked in, visuals are being shot, and guess what? None of it includes him. So now the real question isn't if Jim claps back, it's, does anyone even care anymore? He wanted to go viral, but instead, he might have just canceled himself right out of hip-hop history. If you were locked into all that drama, make sure to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. We've got plenty more wild stories on the way. See you on the next one.